Something odd is happening, everyone. We don't have many clues left to gain, but I'm beginning to see a pattern. Do you see it? Time's blending together. The key is hiding. Our transmission friend is confused and lost, drifting through portals. But yet, we keep hearing that we're losing time, that we must act or the end of everything is coming. Remind you of anything? This chaos? Seems like an analogy for fantasy football. No? Maybe I'm making a stretch. But the transmissions also tie in your matchups. Matchups that somehow are tied to the year 2024 in your home world. My old home. I think we will find out for sure soon. Let's listen for now. I think it's too easy to say my hypothesis is all there is. There must be something else.
Berlin, 1929. Civil unrest happens. A ban on public gatherings. An assault against the Communist Party. The crash of Wall Street reverberates. A rise in power for fascists is inevitable. People do not see that their allegiance will lead to suffering, to inhumane actions. Why am I here? This seems like a warning. Are we repeating history? I continue to wander, but something's wrong. Something's here. I'm an invisible mist, but something else is hidden from the people. A dark cloud hanging over them. No. It roams among them, gaining strength, getting larger, spreading chaos silently. The key is more important than we'll know, Franklin. It will save us. But in the end, it will also imprison us. How? How can we escape and yet be trapped? All the evil I see, all the fear I feel. But I also see visions of the 10th NFL season. The Packers of Green Bay winning their first league title. 12-0-1. Undefeated season. They crushed the Bears of Chicago 25-0 in the last game, clinching the title. But that comes on December 8th. It's almost like the entire year is melding together. Do you see the dark cloud, Franklin? Everyone? I think it's corrupting time and space. I think it's what I'm running from and hiding from. Did it catch me? Berlin, 1929. The rise of artists, sculptures, books, film, music. Too decadent for the right. But there's also the occult, mystical arts, mainstream religious practices tied to becoming God, or altering perception to seem like God. I wish I could remember where I've been. This all seems important. I don't know how this will end, but I do know that I may be running out of time. Franklin, you speak of a game, a contest, its similarities with this existence. So what do I do? How do I find the key? And how will you find out when the darkness catches up to me?
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball! Lost in Dreamlands. We get another battle of first place teams this week, plus a couple of huge tiebreaker matchups as the wild card races begin to heat up. We also get a battle of second place teams right in the mix for division titles. A lot going on. Even in some of the more lopsided matchups based on record, an upset can bring a team back into the picture or alter the future playoff bracket. Every match matters. What may have been considered lopsided a few weeks ago, though, suddenly becomes one of the big-time tiebreaker matchups in our next as the 4 and 5 elite Mother Tuckers travel to take on 3 and 6 low-key Lebowski Thor in Berlin, 1929. DeAndre Hopkins might become a red zone touchdown machine with Kansas City, which would boost Lebowski Thor. Marvin Harrison Jr. has a tough matchup and has been inconsistent, while DJ Moore doesn't seem too happy in the Chicago offense right now. We'll see if Devontae Adams or Devontae Smith sub in for the Mother Tuckers. Either way, it'll come down to touchdowns in the wide receiver battles. George Kittle is expected to be added back into the lineup after a 0 by Komet last week. Taysom Hill either scores touchdowns or disappoints in a big way on the other side. Tony Pollard continues to get yards, but Tennessee lacks touchdown opportunities. Still an advantage over Josh Downs on the other side. Blake Grupe versus Justin Tucker might actually be a very serious key spot here, and the Vikings defense has the edge over the Texans D. This is the third game of the week for the Elite Mother Tuckers because of a quirk in the schedule that forces all teams to have a home game of the week in the first 12 weeks. Lebowski Thor is fresh off the upset over then top-ranked Remember the Titans in a road game of the week a few weeks ago. This one is expected to be close. The Elite Mother Tuckers have a 53.9% chance to win, and the winner will be in good shape to make a run at a wild card spot. The losing team will be in panic mode. Quarterback will be key here. Jalen Hurts has been on fire for Lebowski Thor and has a good matchup against a banged-up Dallas team. Tua Tagovailoa on the other side is a good matchup too against the Rams and has been ramping up throws since returning from another concussion. Elvin Kamara is also being asked to do a little bit more with some of the Saints' injuries. But Bijan Robinson is a talent that gets opportunities to score and to get yards. The only problem with him is Tyler Algier vulturing his scores on the goal line from time to time. Brian Thomas is one of the bright spots for Jacksonville, and now that Christian Kirk is done for the year, he is one of Trevor Lawrence's top options, along with Evan Ingram. That bodes well for the elite Mother Tuckers. But the two players I'm watching here are both running backs. The elite Mother Tuckers have Devon Achane. Achane struggled when Tagovailoa was out, but since he returned, things have opened up. He has 160 rushing yards, 108 receiving yards, and 3 total touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, scoring over 20 points both times. He also had 120 rushing yards, 145 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns in weeks 1 and 2 combined. In the 4 games without Tua, he has 140 rushing yards, 49 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns. That's a big difference. Luckily for the Mother Tuckers, this is another Tua game. And the one thing to remember is that the Rams defense is middle of the league against running backs in fantasy football. They allow 109 rushing yards per game to the position and have given up 6 total touchdowns on the ground, although none have come since week 5, during a stretch where they've actually done a little bit better. They also allow 35 yards per game through the air to running backs, but they haven't given up a receiving score to the position yet, which is all interesting. That might change, though. Tua is checking down a lot more often now to avoid hits and to avoid running with the ball. But Raheem Mostert is always a potential vulture as well. If Achane continues to shine with Tua under center, it could be a boost that the Mother Tuckers need to get this victory. But if Achane has a down game, it leaves a huge opening. Lebowski Thor has Chase Brown on the other side, who will now be getting the majority of carries for the Bengals with Zach Moss out. Brown played 80% of the snaps against Las Vegas and had his best game, 157 total yards and a touchdown, 32 touches. That's pretty good. Brown has had ups and downs, though. This season, 479 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, 98 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air, but he scored under 10 points 5 times and had under 4 points twice. So he certainly can give you that bust week that everybody hates. This week, he gets a tough Baltimore defense in a game where the script will matter. Baltimore runs so well and controls the clock when they take leads. The only thing that would counteract that is if the game turns into a shootout or the Bengals take the lead. A shootout might actually help Brown's receiving opportunities, but it will hurt his rushing output, so that people got to take that into perspective here. And of course, the Ravens defense, they're ranked 6th against running backs. They allow just 58 yards per game on the ground. They've given up just 4 rushing touchdowns. They allow 46.44 yards per game through the air to this position. They have given up 3 receiving scores. So there is some potential for Brown, but there's also some bad stuff there. This might be one of those low floor, high ceiling games. Those, high risk, high reward possibilities. If Chase Brown can get opportunities and the game script doesn't get out of hand, he can turn in a very decent performance to kind of complement Lebowski Thor needs in a close one. But if Brown is kept out of the end zone and is not effective enough getting those yards, it could be a difference in the final score. And not the way Lebowski Thor hopes. I mean, you have to love fantasy football. A few weeks ago, it looked like Lebowski Thor was dead and that the elite Mother Tuckers were thriving. Now, both team seasons might come down to this huge game of the week. Go figure. There's some other huge matchups coming up. Big time implications this week. Let's check them out in the best of the rest. 2-7 Air Jordan travels to Sydney 1842 to take on 6-3 Risky Business in one of those trap games. I feel like this is when those upsets happen. but the computers don't see it. They give Risky Business a 73.6% chance to win. Sam Darnold versus Aaron Rodgers, Kyle Pitts versus Mark Andrews, Raheem Mostert versus Kyron Williams, and Javonte Williams versus J.K. Dobbins look to be the key areas. Tank Dell will also need to keep pace with Justin Jefferson, which is a very tall order. The Falcons versus Eagles defense will be interesting, with both matchups getting boosts due to injuries on the other side. 6-3 Remember the Titans travels to Tokyo 1981 to take on 3-6 Green Acres. This is another interesting trap game. Green Acres is desperate for a win, or the season might be ending soon. Remember the Titans is also desperate for a win after dropping 2 straight, but they come in with a 75% chance to win. Green Acres is hoping for a different kind of boost. Christian McCaffrey is practicing again. He traded for McCaffrey several weeks ago, hoping for this return. If McCaffrey returns this week, remember the Titans' favorite percentage goes down to just 65. For now, the key spots are Brock Purdy versus Derek Carr, Jamar Gibbs versus Ramondre Stevenson, Chuba Hubbard versus Rashad White, and Jamar Chase versus Puka Nacua. The Steelers versus Giants defense battle is also huge. Plus, Green Acres has Remember the Titans' old kicker Tyler Bass, fresh off his 61-yarder last week. 4-5 Minerva's Minions hosts 4-5 the Overcomers in a giant tiebreaker match. The winning squad will be in prime position to make a run to the playoffs, and the Overcomers have a 56.1% chance to win. Kenneth Walker being on a bye could be part of the problem, which makes the Tyrone Tracy versus Bucky Irving battle big. Kirk Cousins versus C.J. Stroud, Saquon Barkley versus Derrick Henry, a big-time beast running back battle there. Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Cooper Kupp, and George Pickens versus Aaron Jones are key spots. Don't sleep on Mike Gesicki versus Cade Otton at tight end, and the Bears versus Lions defense. 5-4 More Than Conquerors host 5-4 the Stellar Bitches in London 25-30. This is another huge battle in the standings with both second-place teams on the heels of their division leaders, and this has wildcard implications too. More Than Conquerors comes in with a 70% chance to win. Joe Burrow versus Kyler Murray, Joe Mixon versus Najee Harris, Deebo Samuel versus Zay Flowers, and the Chargers defense versus the 49ers will be key areas. CeeDee Lamb is injured, and DK Metcalf is on a bye after missing a few weeks for his own injury. That could be a problem for More Than Conquerors, especially if Darnell Mooney goes off on the other side. 7-2 Pounders travels to Barcelona 1992 to take on 5-4 the Clash at Demon Head in a battle of first-place teams. Another possible playoff or Green Bowl preview, perhaps. Pounders comes in with a 55.1% chance to win. We will see which quarterback Pounders goes with. He has Lamar Jackson in for now. Trevor Lawrence has to go on the other side, so Pounders has the advantage regardless. Jonathan Taylor versus Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift versus James Cook, Garrett Wilson versus Keon Coleman, and Jameson Williams versus Xavier Worthy are places to watch. Brian Robinson versus James Conner should also be big. And don't sleep on the Bills versus Ravens defense. While some teams can get closer to postseason berths, the majority of the league will still be close enough regardless of what happens this week. So there's a lot to be decided in terms of shifts. But a win will certainly go a long way if you're in the hunt. A loss will make things extra stressful in the final quarter of the season, I can tell you. It should be exciting, especially with the crazy chance at a couple of upsets that we have. It'll be a week that's most likely looked back on when we deal with playoff tiebreakers later on. Will it be positive or will it be negative? Well, we'll see. It depends on what happens. That's the show for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. The weeks continue to fly by with divisional play coming closer. And all 3 divisions still up for grabs as well. I mean, it's possible we have no division champions until the end, which is amazing. But clearly the dangers of the void continue to spill through the cracks in time and space. And that increases those dangers as well. So lots going on. Before you go, check out the updated standings. Until next time, salut.